Cambridge Insider podcast time again. Hello, everybody. Thank you, as always, for listening. Just before I get to my co-host, Mr. Batson, just a quick reminder, the Cambridge webinar series is back. I know many of our school partners have been asking about the webinar series. It was wildly successful towards the end of the end of last year. And we have that series returning this coming Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard. You can join Craig and myself as we talk about incorporating a cultural understanding into recruitment and student support. Executive producer Dean will post all the details and the link to register for that webinar in the show notes. So all school officials, if you are interested, please join us next week, Wednesday. Mr. Craig Batson, how are you, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic today. I'm excited to talk about this fun topic of marketing today.
Exactly. We're talking a little bit about something which has become very, very prevalent in the past couple of months specifically, but probably has been coming in the industry for, I would say, probably a couple of years now, and that is schools investing into the marketing and the brand and building the brand of the international program. Why is this so important?
Yeah, I think, and again, this is what I've been talking with my schools about, is this market is becoming more mature. And as it matures, we must treat it like a mature market and kind of align it similar to what we do in domestic enrollment. So you have to be thinking about, financial aid. You have to be thinking about marketing. You have to be thinking about promotion and all that sort of stuff. You can't just kind of partner with Cambridge Network and wait for students to come your way.
Absolutely, absolutely. I like what you said that it's becoming mature, and we need to really start giving the impetus to the international student program as we do to regular enrollment. I think for many, many years, this industry has really, through no fault of its own, just been able to exist. And by existing, it's flourished because there have been so many students. There's been a limited number of schools initially that were just could pick and choose of the thousands of students that come into the country every single year. That entire, even pre-pandemic, that entire demographic has changed. I often say to my schools, the ball's in the other court now. You now have 2,000 plus schools. 5-6 years ago, maybe there were 500 schools in this industry in the US looking for students. Now you have 2,000 plus schools. Our data shows that the number of students hasn't really increased. So you have now fourfold the number of schools looking for the same amount of students. So again, something has to change in terms of how do we approach marketing our programs? How do we ultimately approach to recruit these students?
Yeah. And I'm gonna ask you this question, right? Because you've been working on this and you've been helping come up with some new ideas for this. So we've laid the case for why marketing is important, right?
Mm-hmm.
You gotta go find the students yourselves. You gotta go make sure that you're selling yourself, competing with the schools that you're competing with if you want to have an international program. What are some of the best ways to do that?
Sure. And I'm gonna address your question specifically, but let me get to one point first. I think schools and international programs need to realize that probably the best way to ultimately advertise and build the narrative around your international programs is servicing students in an exceptional manner. If you have students on the ground in the US, if you teach students, if you're able to provide them with academic, social, emotional, homestay support, make sure that every single experience is excellent. The problem with that in today's market is that there just aren't as many students. Maybe a school had 10, 15 international students 3-4 years ago. Now they have one or two. So they now only have one or two opportunities to give that excellent student experience. So because of that, yes, we need to start looking at other things. We need to start thinking about how do we build our brand? How do we build the narrative around our international program in countries like China, Vietnam, Brazil, Korea? And I mean, we can ramble off a few. I know you and I have collaborated on this. I think first and foremost, you've got to think about, Craig, who is your target audience? In our market, and you can agree or disagree with me, I think our target audience would be students. international students, the families of those students. So mom, dad, often grandfather and grandmother as well, culturally are involved in those decisions. And then agents and agencies that in the China market ultimately bring those students to you. So that is our target market. Those are the people that we've got to get our message about our brand, get our message about our international program across to those three.
And I think you raised an interesting point is we have kind of two different audiences that we have to market to slightly differently. You have the families that you need to wow with your school specifically. And then you have the agents who really control the market, and you need to find a way to sell them on your school's program itself. Show them the success stories. Let them know when they think of your town, your city. Oh, in Los Angeles, I got to send my kid to XYZ school. In the Bay Area, I got to send my kid to XYZ school. In Seattle, where I am, send my kid to XYZ area. And then once the agent has promoted your school to the family, the materials that you have are going to wow that family. And Cambridge Network has been, we used to do this, or we do this, right? That's how the old market used to work, is we used to be the ones out there promoting your schools and be the ones out there wowing families and creating those marketing materials. But the industry has changed. The number of students has gone down. The number of schools in our network and in the nation has increased. So we have to find new ways that schools can start taking on some of that work and wowing the agents, wowing the students themselves.
Absolutely. And the word that I want to sort of bring to the fore with what you've just said, Craig, is brand loyalty. Like getting that brand, getting the name out there, and then giving yourself the opportunity to make loyal customers, loyal agents, loyal families and groups of friends that say, there's only one school. There's only one school on the West Coast. This is the one I want to go to. And that brand awareness and that building of that brand is so very important. So to maybe get back, and I apologize, we've sort of diverted a little bit, but to get back to it, I think first and foremost, probably one of the most important ways in which we can do this, and in which schools need to seriously consider, is through social media. We've spoken a few times about WeChat, about how important the platform is in China, how widely accessible it is in China, how many of those target audience that we talk about, the students, the families, and the agents, have access to WeChat. So that would be my first go-to. Any school thinking of doing promotion, any school thinking of doing this marketing, WeChat needs to be first and foremost on the list of priorities of platforms that you've got to get access to.
And that used to be, obviously Cambridge Network is on social media. We are on WeChat. We are promoting schools on that. And that was really great when we had 50 schools to promote. But as the network grows and choices increase and students and families and agents want more choice, we have to find new ways to make sure that your name is getting out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How would a quick question for you just on that point, Craig, how would WeChat marketing that Cambridge did maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we used that channel, we continue to use it, how would that differ 4 or 5 years ago to what we're proposing schools do today, now in this new era?
So Cambridge Network used to be basically along the lines of a full service marketing agency, right? We took all of our schools, we created material, we posted material, we followed up in inquiries, we cultivated a brand for our schools in China, and that worked very successfully for a number of our schools and less successfully for other schools. And so what we're suggesting to schools do is take control of this marketing yourself and make sure that you're showing yourself off. If it was up to me, we would be promoting all of our schools in China, in Korea, in Vietnam equally. But the fact of the matter is we only have so much bandwidth to do it. So we need to make sure that the schools that want to be a part of this are working with us.
And don't listen to what Craig just said and get a fright, get annoyed, or walk away from this conversation. the industry has changed. If you want to remain idle, if you are comfortable receiving the one or two apps, potentially one or two enrollments for years to come, if that meets the need for you in terms of your budget, in terms of your diversity, excellent. Then this conversation isn't for you. However, so many schools are reaching out and say, what more can we do? How do we change what's happening right now? And the expert opinion on how to change that is to invest in your program, invest in the marketing and the advertising of your program. Sorry, you wanted to say something?
Well, I was just gonna. No, you go. You go.
All right.
It's all good.
So WeChat's obviously an important channel for us. That's first and foremost. I think any marketing's got to start there. That's got to be one of the big platforms. What are some of the others that you've had conversations about, Craig?
Read my mind, because that's what I was going to interrupt and say, oh, we should hit all the other ones. I just want to, kind of rapid fire list some ideas and things that we've done back when we used to go to China before this wonderful pandemic has embraced our lives with its warm hug. And so things we're looking at are, can you do a demo class and invite potential families and students and agents and do it online? We have all this new technology that we can show off. Can you do an agency visit where you promote your school to an agent? Can you invite families to an open house? Can you make recordings? These are all things that we do for domestic students. We let them shadow our schools. We let them come to the open house. We let them experience these things. But, now we need to invest and do these in the international market if we want to have that big international program that isn't just one or two applications, maybe an enrollment every other couple of years.
Absolutely. I love that quick fire. I've got a few more to add there. I think newsletters is a great way within the industry that we've found reaches a very targeted audience of families and the network around families. So, a friend of my mom and dad, they're also thinking about sending their son. Which school do they go to? So newsletters, very important across all of our markets. One of the things that we're going to be rolling out at Cambridge will be a paid sponsorship for the podcast, which will be stored in our learning library, available to all of the agents. So one of the options for schools is to be able to sponsor a podcast and get your brand, get your name out there, and have that almost continual yearly, monthly exposure to some of those agents that are going to that library to learn a little bit more about the industry. Speak to me quickly, and I know some schools have asked this. We've sort of been, just because of the cost associated with it, not hesitant, I would say, but we really want to formulate it correctly. Speak to me about Baidu. Speak to me about the Chinese Google, about are we going to be using that? How does it work? Just very briefly.
So Baidu is the Chinese Google, right? And the Chinese
internet. Is that the right way to say it? The Chinese Google.
It is the right way. That is the right way to say it. And it's a different culture over there because WeChat is so omnipresent there that it's even more than Facebook. So a lot of search is done there. But Baidu is a platform where you can advertise like we do on Google. The problem is there's a lot of barriers to entry. First of all, it's very expensive. I remember when I first started going to China, I had my mind warped by, TV and movies. And it was like, oh, everything will be really cheap. And then, no, it's all incredibly expensive. But the biggest barrier to entry for advertising in Baidu to get your school specifically in front of people's eyeballs is the political barriers. You can't just go into China like you can in America and start advertising. You have to get approval from the government. And so that is something that is an effective way to get your brand out there, especially for large programs, but an expensive way. It's thousands and thousands of dollars to even start that process. And, it's not something that you sink in just a little bit to. But what we're looking at is, maybe we can start bundling schools together to, create a campaign, but it is, we don't all have to pitch in $12,000. Maybe we can find, a way that everybody pitches in a little and then we can advertise successfully. And I think that's a really interesting idea.
And just, to summarize, and I appreciate you giving those points, Craig. I think to summarize this conversation, it's important to remember that different schools have different needs. if you're in a place where you're comfortable with where the market is for your needs in terms of getting international students to your program, then that's great. Understand that there are challenges and a lot of competition on the market. If you're looking to change, your level and what you're willing to invest might be different. We had a school, and Craig mentioned that Baidu is very expensive. We had a school specifically reach out to us. They'd done research in the market and said we're not as an American high school not able to do Baidu ads. We'd love to invest in it. We think it's the future. We think it is what our program needs. For a school like that, absolutely, we can offer something like that. I think, and I just want to summarize, Craig, before you say a few parting words, but think seriously about investing in building your brand. Think seriously about investing in marketing and advertising your international program. That is the context we're in right now. Whether you do that through Cambridge or whether you do that through somebody else, the most important thing for us as program managers is to make sure that our schools are getting their brand out there. We at Cambridge, absolutely. We have, I would like to say, probably a little biased, but I don't think that biased. We have unrivaled access and unrivaled ability to be able to market your programs. But again, I think the most important thing coming out of this is think seriously about investing in your international program as much as you invest in your domestic marketing.
And I'm here for this this end of the podcast thoughts. And this is what I got today. I think this is good. I have a school that I love. I won't say where. If you send me a message, maybe I'll tell you the name of it. And it is a amazing school. And they have this massive international program and they rock. And I was showing it to someone else in an expanded market. And they said, Craig, I don't get it. I got 15 schools that look like this. Like, why is this program the one that everybody in China goes to? And I say, well, it's because they have big marketing, because they have such a big program that agents know them and they want to send kids there because they know that they will be successful.
Brand loyalty. And
if you don't have that big program, then how are we going to build it? If a student, this is gonna make me laugh. If a student goes to Yale in the woods, does anybody hear it? No. Did that work? I think it worked. But if you have the best program in the world, but you're not out there promoting it, you're not going to get any students because nobody knows. Exactly. It's just a fact of life.
Well said. Again, in conclusion, reach out to your Cambridge Network program manager if you just want more information about what you should be doing, and B, want to have a specific conversation about what Cambridge can offer. The Cambridge Enhanced Marketing platform is up and running. We're excited about it. And as always, I think we're excited to be at the forefront of bringing cutting-edge information and insights into this industry to our school partners. Nobody else is doing it. If we're not doing it, who's making this industry sustainable? So thank you for listening as always. Like, subscribe, send requests and questions. Mr. Batson's always waiting. Craig, until next time, thank you so much for joining me, buddy.
Thank you, Stephen.
All right. All the best. Bye-bye, everybody.